Morning. Oop. All right. I just lost my little power supply for my whatever over there. So good morning, everybody. It is another NFPA 70B day. Yesterday was a long day. We're getting. I didn't even do the Kirk Gowdy here for total. We were at 700, and so we've got 707 total public comments. 125 were done day one. 181 were done day two. On day three, which was yesterday, I got to do my tally. Oh, I did my tally. 134, 135, 136, 137. So we had 137. We did 137 public comments yesterday. We had 47, 48, 49. We had 49 second revisions and 2 committee second revisions. PC, SR, and CSR. So that means we did 137. 137. Let me copy. Watch this. I do this, and I would be sharing this with you, but I just lost my power. Let me do a copy to light up my ATEM Mini Pro. So, and I'm not going to go around the desk and get it. I love you, but all right. So we had 707 total, 125 day one, 181 day two, 707, 125 minus, 181 minus, 137 minus. We have 264 to do. Divide that by 2. We need to do 132 today and 132 tomorrow. Now, I do know we're going later today. Just because we got, and I'll tell you where we got into debates yesterday. So I finished my task group work, and I'll tell you where we got into debates. So when we got into circuit breakers, remember the types of circuit breakers that you have available. You have molded case circuit breakers, insulated case circuit breakers, power circuit breakers. So those are your 3 types of circuit breakers. Then you have low voltage, you have medium voltage, right? Then you have AC and DC circuit breakers. So you've got AC breakers, DC breakers, low voltage breakers, medium voltage breakers, power circuit breakers, insulated case circuit breakers, molded case circuit breakers. And personally, I hate the term insulated case. It's a molded case circuit breaker. It's just a biggin. In West by God, Virginia, we call them biggins. So we got into the discussion for chapter. What chapter? 15, I believe it is. Chapter 15. I got to look. 15, chapter 15. So we got into the discussion on chapter 15 for circuit breakers on whether or not it should be applicable to DC. Okay, and how we got into that discussion. So what the task group did and what the committee did in chapter 15 was, let me go to downloads, task group 4, and I got to go to chapter 15. So what we did in chapter 15 was, in the scope of chapter 15, we made a change to identify the different types of circuit breakers, right? So we said, I'm just trying to call it up because I want to make sure I get this right. This was an interesting dialogue, though. So here's what we did. We said the chapter identifies the maintenance requirements for the following circuit breakers and their enclosures. Molded case circuit breakers rated less than or equal to 1,000 volts. So that's how we left it. We had insulated, well, that's how the task group left it before we got to committee. And I'll tell you what the committee did. We said molded case circuit breakers rated less than or equal to 1,000 volts. Insulated case circuit breakers rated less than or equal to 1,000 volts. Low voltage power circuit breakers rated less than or equal to 1,000 volts. And then we said medium voltage breakers rated greater than 1,000 volts to less than or equal to, we had 52 kV. So here's what the way the discussion went, which was, again, it was pretty interesting. They said, look, we should put, and elsewhere we had 1,000 volts AC and then we had like 1,500 volt DC. That's what the code did. Somebody said, well, no, breakers, low voltage power circuit breakers can go to 1,300 volts DC. So we had this debate on what voltage range and should we even put a voltage here, right? So that was another underlying discussion was, do we even need to say the voltage rating? Shouldn't we just treat all power circuit breakers the same, molded case circuit breakers the same? So we ended up focusing this on AC circuit breakers. So if molded case, we said 1,000 volts AC. Now the standards will tell you, say, 1,500 volt DC. Well, we didn't elect to go to the DC side, and for the following reasons. There was some of the panel members recognized and brought some data or some information to the table that said, look, on some of these DC breakers, you can't maintain them the same way. They are different. There are different things you need to do for those breakers based upon how they're built, constructed, etc. There was enough information brought to the panel that we said we didn't feel comfortable that if we added the DC side of this, that we had the right maintenance information in this chapter. So we couldn't, in our opinion, put that information into the document. So that's where we left it. So we focused circuit breakers only on AC breakers, and we were clear in the scope of that. So here was another discussion point, and it didn't happen as much in circuit breakers. So one of the things we did, remember what I told you yesterday, we have in each chapter dot 1, 15, dot 3, 15.3, 16.3, etc. is periodic maintenance procedures for whatever the breaker is. Is it just me here, Dirty Mike? I think, Nick, Dirty Mike, it might be just you right now. So, I'm just doing a quick update every morning this morning to let everybody know what's going on with 70B. So that's basically what's happening. All right, so 15.3, periodic maintenance procedures for low voltage. So 15.3 and 16.3, the dot threes are all focused on maintenance procedures. The dot 1 in that section is visual. And for molded case circuit breakers, we require a visual inspection on all molded case circuit breakers. And the tasks are verify the ratings, inspect the insulating materials. And we talked about this yesterday. And we put 1s or 2s in there. Okay, so no big deal. Inspect the operating mechanism. We didn't put it for molded case, but we said to do that for insulated case because it didn't apply. So there's visual, there's cleaning for all molded case, insulated case, low voltage power breakers. There is lubrication. There's mechanical servicing for all molded case, insulated case. But when we got to electrical tests, we separated the electrical tests out for what you need to do for circuit breakers over a 250 amp frame and under and 250 amp frames and less. And the reason we did that was because of the sheer number of how many smaller breakers are out there. I mean, think about how many 15 and 20 amp breakers are all over the place. So we focused the electrical tests. We didn't want to cause a lot of work to be needlessly occurring on all of these small breakers out there. So we drew that line in the sand on the electrical testing side. Now, so we started that discussion about how do you limit the amount of testing that you're doing in your facility needlessly, right? And there was a proposal that we reviewed that wanted to get rid of the 250 and just say, do all of these electrical tests on all of these molded case circuit breakers, all the way down to the smallest molded case that you could possibly find in your power distribution system. We rejected that one. And we said, no, we want this delineation. So then we went over to fuses. And we went to chapter 16. Now, with regard to fuses, we had the same discussion that we had with circuit breakers, because we said there are a ton of fuses out there in power distribution systems. And do we want to be doing all of these electrical tests? And what we did was we did 1,000 volts or less, and then we did greater than 1,000 volts for the electrical testing for fuses. So we did somewhat separate this into the smaller versus the larger fuses. But that discussion point of how do I justify testing every single fuse, every single circuit breaker, every single receptacle, every light switch in my power distribution system? Because other chapters are going to be looking at receptacles. Other chapters are going to be looking at items, electrical equipment, of which are many in our power distribution systems. So we had a debate around that. And then what we did was we said, okay, look, let's look at chapter 10 as our saving grace, because chapter 10 helps us define the frequencies, the rhythm, so to speak. You know, what am I going to do every 10 months? What am I going to be doing every 5 months? What am I going to be doing monthly? And we said that really chapter 10 should tell us the chapters that are for like circuit breakers and fuses and switches and all that jazz are all about that equipment, those devices, and what you do, not how often you do it. That is a chapter 10 decision. So the chapter 10 group, which is Haley chairs the task group for that chapter. And I was on the call this morning they started at 7:30. I hopped on around 10 minutes late, I think it was. I had some technical, I'm for some reason, my corporate laptop here is, I don't know, it's giving me some heartburn, but in any case, 10 minutes late, technical difficulties. So we had a meeting this morning to talk about how do we provide some language that would give a facility manager the ability to say, look, I'm not going to look at I'm not going to test every single fuse, every single circuit breaker, every single receptacle that is in my facility. I'm going to use this logic to reduce the frequencies that are in those tables. So we're working on that language this morning. That will be brought to the table for the full panel's review and debate. And we'll see where we end up on there. So that's going to be a continued point of contention. And there are a bunch of that table that she has, we tabled. That table we tabled. We put that on the table for because we've got to make some adjustments and changes and little details like this. So we're going to end up going back to Haley's group and try to figure out what are we going to do with that chapter. So that was yesterday. There weren't as many really heavily debated items outside of that. And I think that's still going to be a point of contention with regard to how do we not make maintenance onerous? Hey, no worries, Nihad. It's just a challenge. It's one of those things where you say, how do we not require you to do needless tasks? We want you to focus. We want facility managers to focus their energy in the right places. And I believe risk comes into play here, but I'm not sure how to deal with that. How do you say what you do have to maintain, say every 5 years or every 3 years, and what you don't? So say it's two different circuit breakers in your facility. One's a 15 amp circuit breaker on a lighting circuit. The other is say a 15 amp circuit breaker on a life support system. All right. So do I want to make sure I maintain that breaker that's on that life support system because it's critical? But on that lighting circuit, for a light that's in my garage out back or my shed that I never go into, might I perform maintenance on one breaker more so than I would on the other? And would I be justified in saying I'm not going to look at this breaker that's on this conductor that's going out to my garage that I rarely get to? I'm not going to perform that once a year. I'm going to do that once every 2 years or every 3 years, whatever the schedule I come up with. How would I justify that? And then document that. So that's, I think, the debate. And I'm not sure what the answer is, honestly. I really don't know. I think part of me says every circuit breaker, every fuse, every receptacle. In fact, there was a person that relayed a story about a receptacle that failed and emitted sparks, ignited a bed, and killed a bunch of people in some sort of care home. So I could look at that and say, if I reduced the visual inspections on all of my receptacles, because I said the likelihood is low and the severity, I don't know what it could be high, but it's like saying I'm not going to fly in a plane anymore because the severity is so high. But based on statistics, the likelihood is very low. But if that plane goes down, forget about it, right? It's over. So I don't know. I'm torn on this one, and I don't know what the right answer is to say what kind of logic do you put in place that would provide an owner the ability to modify the frequency schedules based on risk. So I'm struggling with that one personally. Anyway, so that's where we were yesterday. We still have a long road to hoe. And you know, here's the other thing. This that number that I gave you earlier, which was what? And I closed the app. I said, I think it was 120 some a day that we needed to get done, or 131 or 132 per day that we needed to get done. It's actually a little bit more because there's a whole group of public comments that were in task group 3 that we tabled. We skipped a few so that we have to go back into. So I counted all of those, which aren't technically addressed yet. But I have a feeling that once they get on the table, it'll be wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and we are done. So I feel pretty comfortable with that. But I'll tell you what, today's going to be a long day. So we're going an hour and a half later. So I think we were going to probably stop at 8 o'clock. And I got to cut grass. All right. I've got a little ladybug that is flying around here. And this little guy has been this little ladybug has been here for the entire 70B discussions, and I don't know if you can think of a good name for this little guy. Let me know. He's been flying around, or she's been flying around here for a while, and I don't know. So I think I'll name. I don't know what I'm gonna name him. Give me some ideas for a name for the ladybug. So anyway, I guess it just likes this desk. There's no food for it though, but it is what it is. All right, so that's the 70B update for today. We're going to continue our discussions. We're moving through the later chapters now. We do have to solidify the chapter 10 stuff with frequencies and all that jazz. So we will plug along. I just wanted to at least share what happened yesterday, how many public comments we got through yesterday, and we will be plugging through more public comments today. So hopefully everybody out there is staying safe. And you know what? It's cold here in West Virginia. It's getting colder and colder. I don't know why. But in any case, I'm going to sign off and get ready for day 4 of 70B second revision meetings. All right. Thanks, Nihad, for joining in. Nick, thanks for joining in. Mr. Tesla, Dirty Mike. Remember, take care, stay safe, and please stay healthy. See you tomorrow.